Welcome, everyone. Hello, my name is Grace Murray from the Freer and Sackler, Smithsonian's National Museum of Asian Art. We're so delighted you have joined us for today's meditation session. And as you may know, every Friday we are offering a meditation practice that is inspired by an artwork from the museum collection. Today, we are going to be celebrating this new season of fall that we're moving into and thinking about new beginnings with our teacher, Philip Bender, and our focus artwork is going to be a Japanese painting. To begin today's program, we're going to get a little bit of an introduction to this artwork from Sonia Komen-Ernsthoff, who's a scholar of Japanese art and also a communication specialist at the Freer and Sackler. And after she speaks with us, then we'll move into the meditation practice led by Phil. So welcome, Sonia.
Thank you, Grace. Thank you, Phil. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our session today. All right, so I will share my screen, and we will be looking at our work of art for today. Okay. So this painting is, as you can see, depicting many flowers. These flowers are chrysanthemums, and chrysanthemums come into full bloom in autumn. So they're representative of the season in Japanese culture. They have been depicted to celebrate autumn in Japanese painting, in Japanese poetry for centuries. If we take a closer look, you will see that this hanging scroll shows the blossoms close up, and there is absolutely nothing else that fills the support. It's just these flowers that overwhelm you in a way with their presence. They invade the space and they really focus your attention on how lush they are, how luxurious nature is, even in autumn. We'll come back to this idea in a moment. First, I would like to draw your attention to the blossoms themselves and how they were made. As you can see, they are a little thicker in the pigment with which they were done, especially these white petals that are made with a thick gofun white paste. And that materiality of the blossoms, we can contrast that with the washes that define the leaves, this tapestry of leaves that are very dark in places like this, but also more ethereal. For example, here, where you can see that the washes are variegated. The artist used different colors, and he didn't wait for one layer to dry before moving on to the next one. It's almost like watercolor. This technique is called in Japanese Tarashikomi. Also, some of the leaves are left in reserve, as you see here. And if we scroll down and zoom out, you will see here the seal of the artist over here. This seal says Inen, and interestingly, we have several paintings by this artist who is still elusive. We don't know if it was one person or several people who used this seal. All the paintings that bear the seal are known as by the master of the Inen seal. This artist, or this number of artists who had the right to use the seal, they were part of the Sotatsu school. This school operated in the early 17th century, at the beginning of the Edo period in Japan. the Sotatsu school, named after the master Tawaraya Sotatsu, was extremely influential in Japanese painting. And it was a foundation for the later Rinpa school that some of you may have heard of. It's a school that had a long lineage of important artists in Japanese art history, all the way to the 18th and 19th centuries. Now, chrysanthemums that you see here in combination with other autumn flowers are a symbol of longevity. They are central protagonist of a story that says that a Chinese youngster drank the dew from chrysanthemums, and that gave him eternal youth and longevity, having lived for 800 years. This idea is quite interesting. It has always fascinated me because we associate fall with nature winding down, right? We associate fall with nature preparing for winter. And yet, we see this luxuriant vegetation and these beautiful full blossoms like the chrysanthemums, showing us that nature is resilient, that we are resilient, that things still thrive even in moments when we wind down. And in East Asian culture and in Japanese culture, the chrysanthemums are both a symbol for fall and for longevity. I would like to read to you a poem written in the 9th century, in the Heian period, by a famous poet. He was, in fact, one of the 36 immortal poets. His name is Kino Tomonori. And his poem refers to this legend of the Chinese youth that I was just telling you about. Here is his poem. Let us deck our heads with dewy chrysanthemums, plucking the blossoms, that we may always enjoy autumns of eternal youth. I thought it was a beautiful, contrasting metaphor to think of autumn as the season of eternal youth. And you can certainly see that contrast on full display in this painting. The motif of the chrysanthemum and this particular legend associating it with longevity has fascinated Japanese poets and artists for centuries. So the contemporaneous viewers of this particular painting, as it would be hanging in a Japanese home, probably in a special alcove like the tokonoma, they would have thought about poems like the one I just read. The painting with its central motif of the chrysanthemum would have brought to mind poems such as this one. I would like to read one more poem as means of conclusion here by another immortal poet, another one of the 36 poets, Ariwara no Narihira, also from the Heian period. If it be well set, it will bloom as surely as autumn arrives. And though the petals may fall, the roots will never wither. In Japanese painting, autumn is very often paired with spring. And I think that while that may be a little unusual for us to think of that, because those seasons are not successive chronologically, I think that it does speak beautifully to this metaphor of renewal, even in a time of winding down. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. It was wonderful. Very insightful. Now, participants, I'm pleased to join you and invite you to take some time to savor these chrysanthemums, but perhaps in a slightly different way. In today's practice, I'll be asking you to employ your imagination to develop a gentle yet focused and precise amount of visual attention. Meanwhile, I'll also ask you to suspend judgment and allow the kind of analytical and critical mind to slip into the background so that your gentle attention might pull forward your direct experience of this object. So, for the time being, let us prepare, closing our eyes, getting settled into our seat, feeling the weightiness of our posture for a moment. Maybe noticing where you're making contact with the chair, a cushion. Feel that weightiness carry you into a more relaxed state, setting aside some of the tension of the day through your seat, through your legs, down through your feet. Now, to further help us prepare, let's directly invite a full inhalation and exhalation out the mouth. And repeat. So this is a distinct diaphragmatic breath, medium to full inhalation, exhaling with a little friction in the throat. Do this a few more times. We know diaphragmatic breathing can help calm the system. Two more deep and full breaths. Now, keeping your eyes closed, let go of the manipulation of the breath and observe the body as it naturally returns to its own relaxed rhythm of breathing. How wise is your body? It knows just what amount of breath you need for this very moment. Now, briefly, we'll check in with the body. And as we do so, consider that as you turn your attention to separate body locations or parts, that you're making these parts not just relaxed, but more receptive. So let's start with the face. Softening the face as best you can. Muscles around the eyes and the mouth. The face becoming, in a way, more receptive to sensory information. And let the face be a model for your shoulders, your elbows, your wrists and hands. Letting them grow heavy. The soft face is a model too for your chest. even the lungs and heart inside the chest. And your belly. Softening certainly any gripping on the exterior, the surface of the abdomen, but also tuning inward to the belly, to the organs of digestion, elimination, your guts. So that we might be receptive to gut feeling. And let the softness of your face inform your hips, your knees, your ankles, and your feet. Allow your whole body to be receptive. Now, gently, softly open your eyes and open your receptive body to this work in front of you. Take it all in. Let the work approach you for a moment. Let it speak to you directly. Now let's see if we might magnify this experience a little bit. So please close your eyes for a moment. And then open your eyes. And here we'll apply a close attending technique. I'd like you to notice this leaf. You see my cursor tracing or circling that leaf? Now, the technique that I invite you to apply will be to imagine that you are now the artist and you will be painting this very line around the leaf, tracing it. And as part of that invitation, consider that you're moving your brush, your eye, with your breath. So, for example, as you inhale, you might glide your attention up to this point. And then as you exhale, you continue on. On your next inhalation, follow another line. Exhale, continue on. So this is a very slow process with your focused, gentle attention, tracing the outline of this particular leaf. Okay, keep that going. I'll get out of your way. Easy, steady breath. Precise, yet gentle focus. If you run into a line that merges with another object, try to stay with the central leaf, following its contour. And if you finish tracing before everyone else, you might start again. How precise can you be with your attention? Tracing the perimeter of this leaf. Now, since this is our first time closely attending, let's pause and bring attention to the very center of that leaf. So the interior, bounded by the perimeter. Find a point at the center and focus there. It's not that information from the periphery goes away, it's still there. But your gaze is direct, while the periphery is welcoming. Continue to remain focused on that leaf as we zoom out. Notice any gut reaction to the sudden presence of chrysanthemums. The color. Perhaps an emotional hint is given off by the flowers. Good. Close the eyes once again, please. Now we're going to choose a little more complex object. You may open your eyes again. Relaxed, awareness unconditional. You see this center leaf, or this leaf right in the center of your screen. Now, clearly, its edges, its contour is more complicated. It's perhaps a little more challenging. But see if you might stay engaged in the practice. And you could begin at the stem of the leaf here. And inhaling, tracing your awareness until you come to that pause at the top of inhalation, and then exhaling, continuing on your way. Now keep this going at your own pace, savoring even the imagined physicality of painting the perimeter of this leaf. Your attention like the finest tip of a brush. If you get distracted, just come back. Come back to the practice. The touch of your imagination on the paper is very tender. Your attention very sweet and gentle, yet precise. Perhaps there's even a sense of elegance about the movement of your attention. The breath easy, the focus precise. Sometimes it's hard not to rush because of our trajectory or inertia in life. And here we shift gears and apply the gentle discipline, gliding our attention slowly around the perimeter of this beautiful leaf. When you finish tracing the leaf with your attention, gaze into its center. Let your mind, your body merge with the leaf. And stay with it as we zoom out. for one more minute, rest with this work. Let it come to you. Let it merge with you. May we take time to relax. And may we take time to see, to gently focus, unconditionally attentive. And may this type of seeing open doors to new experiencing and fresh becoming. My friends, I invite you all to bow to close this practice today as we offer peace, peace, peace to one another.
Thank you so much, Bill, for that practice, for leading us through that gentle attentiveness. That was beautiful. I want to invite back Sonia at this point. If anyone has any questions you'd like to ask about the artwork or any observations you'd like to make about this experience, feel free to put them in the chat. We'd love to hear your thoughts. And Sonia, as we're waiting for questions, feel free to add any comments you have. We do have one question coming in about the process, and was the painting created with the outlines first and then the colors added?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you, everyone. I'm so glad to have read your comments, and thank you, Phil. That was really beautiful. I think we all needed that in our day today. And yes, to the question you just asked, Grace, indeed, the painter would first create the outline, and then they would add the pigment, the washes, and they would also mask some of the leaves or some of the petals, and then paint over, remove the mask, and then go back to what was left in reserve and add more pigment. It was quite a laborious process, many different steps. I think that kind of painting was definitely lending itself to close looking and, to sitting in front of it and engaging in that kind of attentive, sustained looking to let the work reveal itself to the viewer in the same way as, or at least in a similar way to how we looked at it through Phil's guidance.
Meredith is asking, how big is the scroll? What are its dimensions?
The scroll is quite big, but let me see exactly here. It's 52 inches tall and 22 inches wide.
And Kate asks, is it painted on paper or on textile?
It's painted on paper, although, and let me see when, Okay, I see. Yeah, it's painted on paper, but it was mounted on panel in the meantime. Um, Sometimes paintings of this sort are also painted on silk, um, and it's a question of who commissioned the painting, right? If they had more resources, then they would have it painted on silk. If it was painted on paper, it was less costly.
Rebecca asked, it looks like the flower petals, some of them were more defined, or parts of the petals are more defined and others less so. And was that a usual technique at this time?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, exactly. So, in order to create this sense of the proliferation of blossoms, if you had all of them perfectly defined, it may look a little too static, a little too rigid. So, leaving some with less defined outlines created a little bit of a sense of movement, made the composition more dynamic. And showed the layers of the blossoms as they are in nature.
And to Meredith's question, the date of the work is between
1600 and 1630.
1600 to 1630.
The dates for the Master of the Inen seal. It's at the very beginning of the Edo period, and according to some timelines, that is also part of the Momoyama period.
We have a comment or a question from Joe, who's just thinking about what would it be like to meditate on a leaf in nature compared to meditating on a leaf in an artwork. I don't know if you want to respond to that, Phil, or add anything.
Joe, do it and let us know. I think that is a fantastic idea. And, this process of closely attending visually harkens back to a yoga technique that perhaps many of you are familiar with, the Trataka, where you're gazing at a particular object for some time, and traditionally, or one that's offered in oftentimes you see it referred to in books and whatnot, is gazing at a candle, for example. But the gazing can be really on any object, and when it's done peacefully, gently, it can be quite transformative. So yes, practice it, try it out, see what happens for you.
And to Patricia's question, the painting is not currently on view at the museum. Sonia, do you want to add anything about that?
Yeah, the painting is not currently on view, but more generally, I think that we all are very much looking forward to the moment when we can all go back to the museum and everything that's on view and everything that's in storage that is, I'm sure, eager to see the light of day again.
Yes, the museum has many more artworks than we can show at any one time, and particularly works on paper are very light sensitive. So we can only show them for a few months or a period of weeks, and then they go back into storage for several years. So our conservators at the museum work very carefully on tracking which works can go out on view at any one time. Is there any significance to the colors of the flowers, Nancy was asking?
It's interesting. Usually chrysanthemums are depicted as white. And I think that that has to do also with that pigment that I mentioned, the gofun, which is white. And it allows for that thick, a very lush character to the blossoms. And they, of course, also symbolize purity. As you, well, we don't have the work in front of us anymore, but if you look at the link that Yin shared with you all in the chat, you'll see that in the bottom, there is also another type of flower, the bellflower called bush clover. It's hagi in Japanese, and that has a purple tone to it. There you go. You need just send the link again, so you can take a look. And that is another beautiful, elegant, and typical combination of those purple and whitish tones that suggest purity and elegance. They're definitely auspicious colors.
Thank you to Adrian for mentioning visual thinking strategies. That's definitely something that we are thinking about and aware of, and we hope to bring that into this practice as well. It's just a process of asking questions. What do you see? What do you see that makes you say that? What more can you find when looking at an artwork? So it's a really open-ended way to explore any artwork. It's a wonderful way to start. Phil, Heidi is asking if you could spell the name of the yogic practice of attending to an object that you were mentioning.
I just posted it, and there's a Wikipedia article on it that's worth reading. And I'll paste the link there in the chat.
I see a comment from Meredith that the colors are very much like colors of blossoms that we currently see blooming right now around us. And I really like that comment. I think that it's wonderful to connect, the colors and in general the subject matter that we enjoy in the paintings that we look at with what we see around us, right? I mean, one of the challenges for the painter, right, was to capture the colors of the blossoms that he used as model, right? So I think that this also speaks to that other wonderful question we had about what it would be like to meditate on an actual leaf as opposed to the painted leaf. I think that, returning to nature and returning to our own surrounding reality is something that this kind of painting and this kind of practice of engaging with a painting like this definitely invites us to do.
Wonderful. Well, thank you to you both. Thank you to Phil and Sonia. If you would like to share any thoughts with us about your experience in the program today, the survey link is in the chat. We'd love to hear your feedback as we are still developing this, and you all have really helped us shape how we're thinking about this program. I hope you'll come back and join us next week on Monday and Wednesday for our meditation sessions, and then next Friday for another art-focused meditation. Next week, we'll be looking at a Buddha sculpture from Nepal. So please do come back then. And until then, everyone stay safe and have a wonderful weekend.